saying things that are so hurtful to this community of people that just want love and acceptance like we all do. This is a hard day for me. This is a hard video to make, but I really wanted to put it out there for those who are interested in what's going on. Hey, what's up guys? It's Exmormon from My Spiritual Life, and today I'm talking about Jeffrey Holland's talk that he gave at BYU's 2021 University Conference, where he's essentially condoning some of the students and faculty for supporting the LGBT community. In this video, I'm going to overview the talk and some relevant background information, and at that point I'll also share some of my own personal opinions and thoughts as an ex-Mormon who grew up Mormon. Here we go. Let's get into it. Before I get into the talk really quick, just a very brief overview of what the talk was saying is it's basically Holland urging BYU to embrace its uniqueness by ensuring that it takes a stand for the family, not advocating homosexuality. And in his talk, he specifically references the metaphor of musket fire, meaning to actively defend the sanctity of family and marriage. First, a little bit of background information. BYU, Brigham Young University, is an LDS or Mormon college. Holland, Jeffrey R. Holland, is currently an apostle of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, otherwise known as Mormons. And he actually was president of BYU from 1980 to 1989. Another piece of relevant background information is that a large portion of the university is funded by tithing from active LDS members and also from donations from active LDS members as well. Some more relevant background information is that there are certain BYU professors that have been very vocal more recently about being an advocate for the LGBT community. Also, in 2019, Matt Easton, a college graduate of BYU, actually during his graduation speech announced that he was gay. He basically said something to the effect of, "I am a loved son of God who is gay." And that is relevant for this talk as well. And another thing to note is that in 2020, there were changes made to the honor code that essentially were just, again, doubling down on homosexuality is not allowed on campus, and there was a lot of protests that happened from students and teachers on the campus during that all happening. Okay, so let's get into this talk. This was given, again, August 23rd by Jeffrey R. Holland. Here we go. He opens his talk with basically talking about, since he was young, his amazement over the university and his awe, and he just felt that it was going to be a big part of his life. And obviously it was, because he went on to be president of the school for 9 years. In his talk, he goes on to thank the staff and the student body for maintaining such a magnificent and wonderful place with such a wonderful spirit. And then he gives a couple examples of some people that have had wonderful experiences at BYU. And from there, he steps into kind of the real point of the message he wants to get to. And this is where he talks about some grievances that he's received from people, from active members about the university. And he actually reads a portion of a letter from someone with regards to all of this. And this is what it says. "You should know that some people in the extended community are feeling abandoned and betrayed by BYU. It seems that some professors, at least the vocal ones in the media, are supporting ideas that many of us feel are contradictory to gospel principles, making it appear to be about like any other university our sons and daughters could have attended. Several parents have said they no longer want to send their children here or donate to the school. Please don't think I'm opposed to people thinking differently about policies and ideas. I'm not. But I would hope that BYU professors would be bridging those gaps between faith and intellect and would be sending out students that are ready to do the same in loving and intellectual and articulate ways. Yet, I fear that some faculty are not supportive of the church's doctrines and policies and choose to criticize them publicly. There are consequences to this. After having served a full-time mission and marrying her husband in the temple, a friend of mine recently left the church. In her graduation statement on a social media post, she credited a specific BYU program and its faculty with the radicalizing of her attitudes and the destruction of her faith. So this is Holland reading a grievance letter sent in by some member of the church, and basically said that there were many others like this, of people complaining. And from there, Holland goes on to explain that BYU receives its funds through donations and through tithes and faithful members, and that we have to use those tithes, that money, wisely and with integrity. After that, he goes on to quote Oakes, quoting Maxwell, "In a way, Latter-day Saint scholars at BYU and elsewhere are a little bit like the builders of the temple in Nauvoo, who worked with a trowel in one hand and a musket in the other. Today, scholars building the temple of learning must also pause on occasion to defend the kingdom. I personally think," Elder Maxwell went on to say, "that this is one of the reasons the Lord established and maintains this university. The dual role of builder and defender is unique and ongoing. I'm grateful we have scholars today who can handle, as it were, both trowels and muskets." And then, again, this is him quoting Oakes now, said, "I would like to hear a little more musket fire from this temple of learning." And now this is Holland. He said this in a way that could have been applied to a host of topics in various departments. But the one he specifically mentioned was the doctrine of the family and defending marriage as a union of a man and a woman. Holland goes on to mention that we have unfortunately run into some friendly fire from those firing their muskets at each other, like members at each other. Holland says that a house divided against itself cannot stand. And here again, he goes on to say, "We hope it isn't a surprise for you that your trustees are not deaf or blind to the feelings that swirl around marriage and the whole same-sex topic on campus. And I and many of the brethren have spent more time and shed more tears on this subject than we could ever adequately convey to you this morning or any morning." And he said this through a lot of emotions, like crying. "We have spent hours discussing what the doctrine of the church can and cannot provide the individuals and families that struggle over this difficult issue. So it is with this scar tissue of our own that we are trying to avoid, and hope all will try to avoid, language, symbols, and situations that are more divisive than unifying at the very time that we want to show love for all of God's children." He specifically references at this point a student who, Matt Easton, I mentioned before, and he didn't name that kid, but he said that there was a student that announced being gay during their graduation, and he essentially says this is a slippery slope. Like, if a student commandeers a graduation podium intended to represent everyone getting diplomas in order to announce his personal sexual orientation, what might another speaker feel free to announce in the next year, and eventually anything goes? Moving on, he says, "For example, we have to be careful that love and empathy do not get interpreted as condoning or advocacy, or that orthodoxy and loyalty to principle not be interpreted as unkindness or disloyalty to people. As near as I can tell, Christ never once withheld his love from anyone. But he never once said to anyone, 'Because I love you, you are exempt from keeping my commandments.' We are tasked with trying to strike the same sensitive balance." Skipping ahead a little bit more and reading again from Holland. "Musket fire. Yes, we will always need defenders of the faith, but friendly fire is a tragedy, and from time to time, the church and its leaders and some of its colleagues within the university and community have taken such fire on campus, and sometimes it isn't friendly, wounding students and parents of students who are confused about what so much recent flag waving and parade holding on the issue means." Then he basically goes back to talking about how BYU is super awesome and it will become even more awesome. I want to point out this last thing, though, that he mentions in his talk that I think is worth pointing out. "We must have the will to stand alone, if necessary, being a university second to none in its role primarily as an undergraduate teaching institution that is unequivocally true to the gospel of the Lord Jesus Christ in the process. If at a future time that mission means foregoing some professional affiliations and certifications, then so be it. there may come a day where the price we are asked to pay for such association is simply too high, too inconsistent with who we are. No one wants that to come, but if it does, we will pursue our own destiny. Okay, so before I get into my thoughts, I'm actually also going to touch on a couple responses that I've seen from people online, like members and ex-members. I've seen some posts supposedly from BYU professors on Reddit saying that they're afraid right now, and that they especially did not like the whole musket use in the talk, that seems like it's condoning just more intense emotion than it perhaps needs to. Some members are saying that because of this talk, their kids won't be going to BYU, while other members are saying that, because of this talk, their kids will be going to BYU. Some members are saying that the BYU professors that have been condoning or that have been advocating for the LGBT community should be fired. Like removing the wheat from the tares is the metaphor that they're using. Yeah, there's an array of responses happening. There's just kind of on either end, you're getting an array of responses. Okay, so sharing my thoughts on this. My heart is very, very sad today. On the one hand, I totally understand why Holland had to say what he had to say, or why he felt the need to say it, because it's like, if he is a principled person and he believes that this principle is correct, then he needs to stand up for this principle against all odds, right? He's trying to do what he believes is right, hopefully, but also maybe worried about losing funding from big donors, perhaps, is a concern as well. So on the flip side, there are so many suicides happening in Utah. And especially in the younger ages, like teenage ages. Like I know specifically in 2018, suicide was the lead killer for kids like aged 11 to 17. Horrifying. And those suicides are just all that much more likely when you have someone involved in the LGBT community. Like if they identify as something other than heterosexual. So my heart is very, very heavy right now. Because although I understand that Holland believes that homosexuality is a sin, and he feels the need to stand up and say that, my heart is really, really hurting, because there are people's lives at stake over this issue. Literally, there are lives at stake. And I think the more the church doubles down on its stance against the LGBT community, the more shame is perpetuated in the culture, in society, in Mormonism, that is hurting, significantly impacting and hurting people who identify as LGBT members. So my heart is very heavy today because I cannot stand the thought of someone identifying as gay or bi or whatever they identify as, feeling like they are being told that what they are is wrong, that they are bad, and that it's a sin just because some of these religious people are telling them that's the case. I think that doubling down on this doctrine encourages members to take more of a stand against the LGBT community, and it can come across as really hurtful and harsh. And I think that most Mormons are really good people, and they have really good intentions, and they really do believe that this is like just the way things are, but I think it's incredibly sad. And it hurts me to see basically that BYU was having a lot of good things happening at the school, like a lot more LGBT support happening there and normalizing it more. And then the church comes back and says like that's inappropriate. Which again, I get it's their university. They got to run it under their beliefs, or, what else are they doing? But I'm hurting. I'm hurting for the LGBT community. I'm hurting for Utah. I'm hurting for the amount of suicide rates that happen there, and I am just sad. I think one aspect of this that really hurts my heart too is that I always looked up to Holland. He was always my favorite apostle. He's a lot of people's favorite apostle because he's just a very good speaker, very emotionally provoking and stuff, and it hurts my heart, like, because there will always be a part of me that's Mormon, right? There will always be a part of me that can love and appreciate certain aspects of Mormonism, or, certain teachings and certain leaders and certain family members, all that. And it hurts my heart to see someone that I love and care about so much saying things that are so hurtful to this community of people that just want love and acceptance like we all do. And so this is a hard day for me. This is a hard video to make, but I really wanted to put it out there for those who are interested in what's going on. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. Lastly, I'll just say that if you are struggling with some serious depression or issues like that, get professional help. There are things we can't deal with on our own, and there's no shame in it. I go to therapy. A lot of my friends go to therapy. There's nothing wrong with it, and it helps a lot. So be patient with yourself. Be kind with yourself. Be patient and kind with your Mormon friends and family during this, because they really, they really believe what they're teaching, and it doesn't make them bad people. It just means that they don't understand it from the same perspective that we have. Sending you all my love and hugs, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.